Any good stories from the road?
Pipe up.
I wish we'd gotten seen a little bit more out of our punter.
I'm starting to puke.
It makes my stomach hurt.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to die.
I'm starting to throw up in my mouth a little bit.
He's on the probiotics.
Is Georgia playing the 1985 Bears this weekend or what?
A lot of Todd talk.
Rat poison proof.
They're mongeese.
We will not be hunted at the University of Georgia. I can promise you that. The hunting that we do will be done from us going the other direction.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome into the Georgia Show, the Sunday edition after the NFL Combine wrapped up. We got the Jakes. We got Palmer Toms, who just hopped into the stream here. Just made it back from Indianapolis, still clearing the horseradish and shrimp cocktail out of his nose.
We hear he ran all the way back. He Forrest Gump jogged all the way back from Indianapolis, baby.
All the way back.
He did it all the way there too.
Hey, I could use that kind of distance run after eating that much. What I did at Harry and Izzy's. Couldn't make it into St. Elmo's, but got the sister restaurant.
Yeah, you can't really get in there unless you're Jerry Jones, Arthur Blank, someone like that,
or Jay Grow. I mean, I got in with him.
Indy's such a so-so city, in my opinion. I'm glad that I went once, but a return trip was not necessary.
I don't mind it. I mean, it's odd, and it's really, you could tell what its function is. They definitely, kind of typecast themselves in terms of conventions and big events and stuff like that. But I mean,
do we know why the Combine is there? I should know this.
But
it's just geographically central, I think, is
that's why I assume.
It's geographically central. You've got an indoor right there, and you've got that convention center, man, that just kind of sets everything up. You get a lot of people who can just kind of move around, and you get those tunnels and the all the different offshoots of that convention center that just works so well, like it did for the national championship game. That was a really good situation for the national championship game. I don't know any other city that could have handled that weather that way.
They got an indoor facility at Carrollton High School. Let's hold it there.
I mean, not having to leave the hotel in that freezing cold temperature, it was nice. Unfortunately, my hotel was not connected to that, and
at the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, at the Holiday Inn, had to figure out. Called an Uber to probably half a mile on what was that, Friday, when it was pouring rain.
You called an Uber because it was raining?
It was pouring like sideways, half a mile. I couldn't do it.
Pouring rain.
Sideways rain.
The rain that seemed to come up from the ground.
Yeah, you just got to steal an umbrella, Palmer.
Nah, good call. Good call calling that Uber, dude. We don't want you to get pneumonia.
So who won the Combine, Palmer, from your view, from your vantage point? Out of all the Georgia players, which guy do you think performed the best? And I mean top to bottom, talking to the media and doing the workouts and drills and all the above. Total package, who blew you away the most?
So if it's the total package, if it's the on-field and the off-field stuff, Nolan Smith, without a doubt. I mean, everyone that I talked to, that recognized that there was a group of us talking to all the Georgia players. They came up, they talked to us. They're like, hey, are y'all from Georgia? Whatever, blah, 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 blah. They were really impressed with Nolan. I was talking to somebody who covers the Broncos, and he said he saw Nolan out on Thursday night after his performance. They were out at a brewery or something there, restaurant, bar and grill. And he went up to Nolan and said, hey, the Broncos don't have a pick until the third round. You're not going to end up in Denver. But anytime I see you like at an NFL stadium, at an NFL type event, I'm going to come say hello, make a point to shake your hand, because that was what you did on Wednesday in the interviews and the emotion that you could tell that he speaks with. And Thursday on the field, that is a combine that will be remembered for a long, long time. And that's the kind of thing that you want people saying about your program if you're Kirby Smart. I thought Nolan came into this week. Some people were mocking him in the first round. Some people were maybe a little bit lower on him, undersized, little bit of a tweener type guy there on the edge. Is he going to play hand it down in the dirt? Is he going to play outside linebacker? Did a little bit of both at Georgia, and so he showed that he can do it, but the size doesn't necessarily say it. The measurables don't necessarily say it. After that kind of a performance, especially considering the injury, that was his first time back on the field since the injury, he proved to people that he is not going anywhere, that he is the same kind of player that he was when he got hurt, and I think probably solidified himself as a top first round pick.
First round pick for Nolan Smith. I don't know if I see that. Personally,
I listen. He had an incredible combine. Don't get me wrong. And Nolan Smith is the guy. If you're a PR office in the NFL, you're falling all over yourself to get him in the room. I think of him honestly still a bit as a gadgety player in the NFL. I think he's going to be kind of a freelance guy, kind of a man without a country, if you will. You know, he's going to sort of fill a lot of needs. I think that puts him toward the back end of the first round if he's in the first round, because those are good teams that have needs addressed in a lot of cases. So Nolan's a luxury piece in that scheme, and I think he can be very successful in a role like that. Somebody on our board the other day compared him to like Micah Parsons, and while he doesn't have that size, you know, I think that he can do some of those same things. Now, you know, Matthew C over here mentioned the Falcons taking him. The Falcons to me don't make sense as a fit for him, because I think they have very clear needs at other positions where they don't otherwise. My winner of the combine was Stetson Bennett. I thought that from his on-field performance, listen, Stetson is who he is. He was going to come across in any interviews, have to talk about his recent arrest, all that stuff, right? There were not a lot of instances over Stetson Bennett's career where he was mentioned with guys like Will Levis. And suddenly when you're talking about ball speed and that kind of thing, he's able to step into there. He's throwing the deep ball about as well as anybody that they put on that field in Indianapolis. I thought from a pure measurable standpoint of what he was able to put on tape, Stetson Bennett was the guy who probably helped himself the most when it came to Georgia's guys. I thought it was a big win for him.
Yeah, it's just so hard to showcase, you know, obviously the arm strength, but no one's rushing you. There's no pass rush.
Sure.
You're just throwing a ball deep. But he did it back to back to back. He set him up and knocked him down. His 40 time was good, not great. I was surprised that Max Duggan outran him on that Lucas Oil Stadium turf a little bit. He was fleet of feet, but Stetson Bennett was still quick, and it looked like he kind of let up towards the end. It almost seemed like he didn't really care too much about his 40 time.
And I'll hop in there on that. He told us that when he was asked about the 40, he told us he hadn't run an entire 40, and this is a day before he was set to do it. Real deal. He said he hadn't run an entire 40. He was working on the start. And I think that's what people really care about with the quarterbacks, especially is that burst. And from I saw clips, I didn't see what people had to say about it. I definitely thought that he was slower towards the end, and you know, maybe let off the gas a little bit around the 30, 35 mark. But out of the gate, I thought he looked pretty good.
There were a lot of guys who had a really good combine. I would probably, you know, just to be different, I would probably go with Nolan, but just to be different, I'll say Darnell Washington. I think it was probably, you know, Nolan and then Stetson and Darnell Washington right there. I mean, the catch, the sub 4.7. You know, this guy, I mean, listen, the similarities with Rob Gronkowski are unreal. And he may be one of the first guys ever to get measured wrong at the NFL Combine, because he came in under 6'7" and then showed that picture on Twitter where he was standing beside a 6'7" guy. Both of them had shoes on. Darnell looked like he was an inch and a half taller. But I mean, here's my thing about Nolan Smith though, is the Micah Parsons thing. Okay, it's tough to imagine a guy being that good, because Micah Parsons has been that stinking good at the NFL level.
And he was that good in high school too. I mean,
he was tremendous.
He's a throughout guy.
And he had a really good sophomore year at Penn State, skipped his junior year, all that stuff. Nolan's a little lighter, but Nolan's a little longer. You know, doesn't have quite as big of hands. He's a little tad bit shorter, but not a lot. Guys, when you're talking about 4.39, listen, you're not just talking about an edge guy. Jake, you called him a gadget guy. I think he's a weapon guy.
To me, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. But like I said, to me, it's like he can fill a lot of things. He's a nebulous player rather than like a clear, this is what this guy does. He's a floater and sort of a creator. And I think, like I said, that's a very dangerous thing to have. But I don't know if you're a high round team that benefits you as much as it does those lower round teams. I think you need guys that this is what you do because we don't have a guy who does this.
You want a sure thing, like how you can pigeonhole this guy, what you expect from him.
I think
not waiting to see what he's going to do down in and down out, whereas you may be more willing to take a chance on a utility player.
But when you're a back end of the first round team that is, you've got the quarterback, obviously, or you wouldn't be a back end of the first round team. Yep. Kansas City, Philadelphia, you're sitting there, you're looking for a guy that can rush the passer for you on third down, or he can drop into coverage for you on third down. And listen, I think the number one thing teams are going to flip on and watch on film of Nolan Smith, they're going to see a job doer. They're going to see a guy who's going to go out there, he's going to do what he's coached, he's going to play within the scheme, he's going to play with his hair on fire, and he's going to bloody noses. And that's the not really kind of drawing, parallels to his bloody nose, his first practice at Georgia, put a tampon in there and cut it off. I put tampon in a headline thinking it would hit. Nobody said a word. It just broke my heart.
No, after Tiger Woods tampon gate, no one really knew what to do.
We're all staying away from tampon. Apparently, maybe I should not have done that. Maybe I've stepped in something. I'll get here from the ACLU or something. But I think the world of the kid, and I think a lot of NFL teams are going to feel that way too, even if he is kind of a man without a home, because we've seen positionless players be very successful in the NFL. And, I think he's kind of I think there's more natural pass rush in Nolan Smith than what we've seen. And I think we were getting a glimpse of it last year before he got hurt. I think we were headed for probably what would have been, in my mind, a 9, 10, 11 sack year. And, he's coming off the pec injury. He's durable, outside of that one injury, and it was a major injury, a freak injury. He's a special football player. And I'm not saying that he's not a special pass rusher yet. He's not a special, put his hand on the ground guy, but I think you can back him up and play Will. I think he can play Mike. He can do a lot of different things for you. And when you can run like that, man, and you're a football player, that's the thing. He runs like that, and he is a fantastic football player. He's just not an elite pass rusher at this point in the game, and I don't know that we've ever had a chance to really nail that down because, listen, outside of Azeez Ojulari, Kirby Smart hasn't produced a 10-sack guy at Georgia, and while he was at Alabama, he only produced a couple there too, or only one there, and that was Jonathan Allen.
Mikel might be the next guy.
Might be.
Listen, for me though. And the reason I went with Stetson here is that I feel like we thought Nolan had the capability to do maybe not 4.39. That was pretty shocking, but we thought he would run a good 40. We thought Darnell Washington would perform well. Both of those guys were being mocked first prior to the combine. So it depended on who you were looking at. To me, Stetson was the guy who really, I think, improved his stock the most based upon what he was able to put on tape and do in person.
But let me ask you this, Roos. Where do you think he goes after seeing that workout?
I think
is that all that different than where he was probably being mocked anyway? I mean, it's hard to say because a lot of those mocks don't go that far anyway.
I think he gained some ground.
I think he's proud. I think he's got. Listen, low end of the back end of the third would be where I think that. I mean, and I think that there's some out there that have said that before. But you worried about would the arrest knock him down? Would these character concerns?
Public intoxication shouldn't knock him down.
I agree with you. But if they're looking for reasons not to take you, so you've got an arrest now on your card, and we think you're short, and
you didn't go to the Senior Bowl.
Your pop gun arm, So he's able to go out there and dispel a lot of those notions, at least in my opinion. Now, the other guy I think that really did him. I mean, not that he needs the favors, but Broderick had a fantastic one.
Broderick had the fastest 40 time of all the O linemen.
Broderick should be a pass rusher,
and I think Jake Rowe called that.
Yeah, he didn't run as well as I thought he was going to. I thought he might break 4.8. I really did. What did he come in officially? Because I saw the one that was 4.98.
4.98
He
is what I
was 4.97.
Okay.
Now,
I mean,
if we're just going on,
it ain't
40
Lane
times,
Johnson, but he
Stand up
and he
like
also
one
put on
there.
some weight. I mean, 311 pounds and coming in over 6'5". That was pretty remarkable.
let's just think about that. That much mass moving with that much speed. That's like a physics class homework assignment. It shouldn't be allowed. Your teacher would say you can't do this math. That does not compute. But he did it. I'll take Kelee Ringo as the guy that won, and I'm just going off of 40 times. But we knew he was a workout warrior. We knew he was going to be able to move, and we knew he was going to be able to move quick. But he moved really quick. When you look at all of the players in the combine, Ringo was the 8th fastest guy total, not just out of DBs, not just in his position group, total. And look, there are question marks around the guy, but you wanted to see him perform and actually back up what you think he can do and what he did unofficially. And when the lights were shining the brightest at that stadium for the combine, that is, he's run, I think, quicker under brighter lights against Alabama in that pick 6. But Kelee with a banner performance showing off his speed. We had a question from Andy Stowe, I think.
Well,
did Kenny Max 40 drop him a round or 2? No, I don't think it dropped him a round or 2. I think based on what we talked about earlier in the week, he was already kind of slated as the number 10, 11, 12 running back in the class anyway. So I don't know if one bad workout is going to drop him, but I'm not sure what y'all think about that.
Wes, and actually on Kelee, he was tied for 6th there at a 4.36. Jake, you pointed out Darnell, and I'm glad that you did, because that was the other one that I considered. Either Nolan or Darnell. I think Darnell did just as much on the field as Nolan did. I think the off the field stuff that Wes included there certainly was incredibly impressive for Nolan. And one name that I think is worth mentioning, and I see Rhett mentioned it here in the comments, Robert Beal. I mean, to me, if Nolan didn't do what he did, Robert Beal might be the name that's getting the most buzz on Thursday, the first day of the combine. Nolan just one-upped him in every aspect of it.
That might be that might have been for me in terms. Yes, Rhett's spot on. He probably played himself into the draft after probably isn't like an undrafted guy. That number he put up on the 40 might have been the most surprising thing that a Georgia player did this week.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did not
4.48.
I did not know Robert Beal was running 4.4.
And honestly, like when he had posted a 4.58, I was like, whoa, like, are you kidding me? Like and then all of a sudden he's a 10th faster than that. I mean, that was pretty incredible. And, there were a lot of guys I feel like who helped themselves. The thing I think that's going to hurt Kenny McIntosh more than anything is running a 4.62 or whatever he ran at 204 pounds. And, there were folks for years because Kenny became a victim of being mismeasured out of high school. Everybody I think he came out, he was 6'1", 210, 215. And everybody's thinking, 6'1", 210, he's going to be 6'1", 225 in no time. And he was never that big. Not one time. I don't think there was a time in Kenny McIntosh's Georgia football career where he weighed 210 pounds. He's always been kind of a thin dude. He's never had super big legs or he was never put together compact like DeAndre Swift. You would see him get up beside a guy like Zamir White, and you're like, one of these looks like a grown man, and the other one kind of looks like more of a scat back. Listen, I got all the respect in the world for him. I've talked ad nauseum about how great I think his season was this past year. But I think that, if anything's going to hurt him, it's going to be kind of being that slider frame guy and running like that. But, because James Cook goes in there last year, runs 0.2 of a second faster. And I'm not so sure he was all that different of a weight there. I can't remember what he measured in at, but I think that is probably the combo is going to hurt him a little bit more than anything else.
Another one from Rhett Womack. How about Scott Sinclair and the credit that he deserves for these guys when you do see Nolan top 5 in the entire combine for his vertical, and you watch him run the 40. You see other players, Kelee Ringo out there running quick 40 times. And look, guys have bad workouts, and Kenny will have an opportunity to have a better workout at Georgia's Pro Day if he chooses to do that. But it is a sight to see when you do see so many Georgia players. Yeah, there are a lot of them there, but they're still showing up and doing their jobs. You see them performing, doing great stuff, running in a straight line, but also jumping high. Darnell Washington on that sled. I mean, he really made that thing look like he was just pushing a revolving door.
He made it look like how it's supposed to look, and he made the other guys look so much worse in comparison. That was the thing. Like, it's how he did it is how a lineman does it, and how everyone else did it is how a tight end does it.
I mean, all of a sudden, though, after this combine, I mean, obviously you've got, well, I don't know, obviously Jalen Carter now, I don't think it's a given, but I still think it's likely he gets taken in the first round. Jalen Carter, Broderick Jones, I think extremely likely to get taken in the first round. I don't know.
It's a given. I don't think it's a given that he goes in the top.
Atlanta Falcons pass on Jalen Carter at their pick. I'm going to hang myself live on this show.
Hey, listen,
we won't do the show then because I think we know what's going to happen with the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, I think he will. I don't think it's just 100% anymore. I think now instead of being 100%, you're looking at 98% or whatever. And listen, I don't know how these teams are going to think. I don't know what else is going to come out. All that stuff about the situation there. But let's say, okay, Jalen Carter, Broderick Jones, Nolan Smith, very good chance. I think Darnell Washington, excellent chance of getting drafted in the first round.
Get 4.
Maybe Kelee Ringo sneaks in there as well at that great speed. We'll see. I don't know. But you've got a shot at 5. I don't think anybody thought Georgia had a shot at 5 last year. Did any of y'all have Quay Walker and Lewis Seen? You can say I definitely didn't.
I need to go back and think about what I was thinking, but Wyatt surprised me as a first-round pick.
Yeah,
last year
there was a lot of buzz right around the draft that he was getting up there. But yeah, and I probably would have said I thought Nakobe would go in the first round last year. Again, the buzz the opposite direction there. But I mean, you're right. It wasn't a given that they were going to get 5. And hey, it took the last pick for them to get 5 in that first round. It took the Vikings trading in to that 32nd pick to get 5 for Georgia last year with Lewis Seen going there. One thing I will add on this Jalen Carter conversation before we completely change topics
we're not completely changing topics.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I'll add this on Jalen Carter, and if it applies to the later topic too, we can talk about it more. It was important for him to come back to Indy and talk to these teams and answer whatever questions they had. It was important for them to do that, and I know that having spoken to some people there, talked to some people there, it was important that he did that, and I think it would have. The chances that he slips are a lot less because he came back than they would be if he didn't come back and was ghosting everyone on this situation.
Yeah. Well, it just depends, and I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, but I think how his draft status gets impacted by this depends on what he told a lot of those teams before this happened and how much he knew and what comes out about what he knew and what he told them. And if he was fully transparent and he knew this was going to happen, or he had any kind of inkling, or on the flip side, if he didn't, I mean, those are the two things. I think those are the biggest factors in how much this impacts his draft status. So yeah, I would say that if he was transparent, or if he just didn't know that the warrant was going to be issued right before he's supposed to take the podium, if it was genuinely a surprise to him, then maybe it doesn't impact him. And if that's the case, he's still going in the first round.
Yeah, for sure. And I just like to say, you know what has an impact on me? BreakingT. BreakingT has an impact on me.
Take it away, Jake.
I just wanted to find one of Wes's. I just wanted to do a Wes segue.
No, go for it.
These are all
rhymes,
shirts.
Jake.
Yeah, that's right. The impact. These shirts have an impact on me. My wife wears one sometimes. It looks really good on her. She's smoking hot in these BreakingTs. Go get you one.
Get your smoking hot wife a smoking hot BreakingT.
Hey, listen, we don't have these for sale yet, but soon enough. Soon enough. DawgsHQ, baby. Got the
They're
swag.
The
They're
swag.
comfy.
I'm hoping to get mine this week. All right. So yeah, Palmer, not totally changing topics here. Kirby Smart, since we spoke last.
Can I butt in one real quick here for a second?
Yeah.
Right now, what do you guys think of the draft? Because right now, I think here's what's going to happen: 5 guys in the top 50 is is kind of the way I look at it. You get 5 guys in the top 50, and then it's going to be break time. It's going to be kind of like, hey guys, we have to wait until day 3 at that point. I think there's a good chance you get 5 in the top 50, and then we go to day 3.
Yeah, at that point, I was going to say, I think you're relying more so on people betting on the culture and the production of Georgia football players rather than what people put up and what they were able to between there, I think. But yeah, you're probably right based on just what we have measurable wise and otherwise. Yeah, you probably got a break coming.
Is that all too different than what you thought before the combine? Because that's kind of what I came into the combine thinking, that those 5 top 50, and then you've got some guys that may be a 3rd round pick. I mean, hell, I didn't think that James Cook was going to go in the 2nd round last year.
Wow.
I didn't think. I didn't think John Fitzpatrick would be drafted. I didn't think John Fitzpatrick would be
drafted. By the way,
I
looked it up. I looked it up on James Cook. I looked it up on James Cook. 5 pounds. He's given up 5 pounds to Kenny McIntosh, but ran a 4.42. So he literally ran 0.2 of a second faster at 5 pounds lighter.
I'll take the over on Andy's 7.5 drafted.
I didn't think Justin Schaefer would be drafted over Jamari Sawyer, but the Falcons exist as a real franchise in the NFL. So nothing's off the table.
I didn't think that Jake Camardo would be drafted before any of.
Oh, you didn't think he'd be drafted?
I thought he would be drafted, but not in the 4th round.
Yeah.
Didn't the Raiders take Shane Leckler in the 2nd round one year?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, wow.
And Seabass was a 1st rounder, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The Bucks also took
we're the new Raiders. We're the new Raiders.
The Bucks took the Florida State kicker in the 2nd, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, what was his name?
Aguero,
Roberto Aguayo?
Aguero.
Yeah.
No, Shane Leckler went in the 5th round. I'm
lost your mind, Jake.
I'm unstable.
All right. I don't have a segue here. Let's take a look back at what Kirby Smart had to say. He spoke with Mark Schlabach since we've spoken last about answering Georgia's culture problem concerns. And I think when you look at this, you got to look at the difference between some individual decisions and massive cultural problems. And the sentiment of this to me is that you do just have a handful of guys doing this. Now, it's your higher profile guys. It's your guy that could be a 1st overall draft pick who probably won't be now. I don't think he'll fall out of the 1st round, but number 1 overall, you want to check every positive box you possibly can. Maybe he is totally exonerated, as Jalen Carter says he will be in a social media statement. But as of now, that would kind of surprise me. But when y'all look at what Kirby Smart told Schlabach, how he answered this, how he immediately shut it down, he seems pretty confident that Georgia doesn't have widespread culture problems. And I tend to agree with that. Now, there is a lot to fix, and there is a trail to blaze, and Kirby Smart has to do it, and he has to be pretty out front about it. And there's some work to be done, but culture problems that was kind of the buzzword from a lot of people that wanted to bash the Georgia Bulldog pinata this week. And I just didn't see that being the case.
Keep saying it, man. Those insurance premiums for those young dudes are sky high for a reason. And that reason is that these guys are young, dumb, and you can fill in the rest. They're just not. I drove like a maniac when I was that age, like an absolute crazy person. Don't start, Bruce. Don't start.
You still do.
Don't start.
You almost got me killed with you one time. James Brown, man.
That wasn't my fault. He came out of nowhere and hit me. I thought it was my fault in real time because I was like, "There's no way he ran that stop sign just smoked me like that."
I bet you.
Yeah, not Rose's fault there.
I was not texting.
What's the story here?
Some dude named James Brown ran a stop sign and just crushed me. T-boned me
on the way to Weaver D's.
Trying to go get a pork chop at Weaver D's, and this dude I was upset about. And you know the great part about it, the ambulance came and took this dude off, and I had to walk to the damn hospital, get my eyes sewed up. It was the worst thing I'd ever seen.
You had to walk. Which hospital did you walk to?
I walked
from downtown Athens to Athens Regional, just bleeding out of his face.
Yeah, we were on the backside of downtown Athens, and my man ran a stop sign and smoked me. And I had I'm bleeding from my eye, just coming, it's just dripping. And I'm over there like carrying my stuff from my car because it's totaled.
Did you get the pork chop?
I got an arm. Heck no, man.
Where did you go in all this?
I went to the hospital. I walked to the hospital with him. Where else was I supposed to go?
I don't know. Weaver D's?
He was smart. That's what he would have done.
Hey,
yeah, they came and put my man on a stretcher. They came and put my man on a stretcher that hit me, and I had to walk to the hospital. Like
you know what might be worse than the fact
Disrespect.
that they made you walk to the hospital? I've never had Weaver D's.
Yeah, man. Well,
all right.
I was having
this discussion
with
it ain't what it used to be. It ain't what it used to be. It's closed 88 times since the last time I went. So,
no, listen. The culture concerns things. I think Kirby said what he needed to say. I thought it was nice to have Nolan Smith back it all up. He didn't have to do that, but that's the kind of guy Nolan is. You know, again, the NFL
recruiting
PR,
for him.
The NFL PR department's going to be falling all over themselves to get a guy like that in. The only thing that I said this on the board, and listen, I'm not calling Kirby Smart a liar. There's a very real chance that he did not know about this, but I have a really hard time believing that he didn't know about that incident report with Jalen Carter, that run-in. I don't believe that. And so does that cast a little bit of a shadow on the doubt of some of the things he said for me? Maybe a little bit, but overall, I don't see it as a widespread problem. I see it as a couple of people who have issues that are, in a lot of cases, small. Driving fast, driving recklessly are things that a lot of people do until something bad happens. Mm-hmm. And that's just kind of how it is. And I think that there's people watching the show, listening to this show, people on the show like Jake Rowe, who no, I'm kidding. But that's the case for. That's the case for. It's an ever-present thing, and I don't know that it necessarily reflects on anybody, one institution, one person, one program negatively. That's just some people's prerogative, and that's a hard one to change. It's not like you have rampant drug use or, you know, people.
Well, and it's not like Kirby never addressed it either.
Right.
He told Schleybaugh that there was, you know, if you're on social media, you've seen that some communities just have like reckless street racing. That's just part of what you exist in. That's what you see on a day-to-day basis, is people just doing street racing. And Kirby Smart said that before the season, I think it was Bryant Gantz's recommendation that they have someone from Athens, Clark County, or some sort of law enforcement figure to come in and say, hey, don't do this. This is reckless. This is dangerous. It hurts people. So when I look at that, could they have done more if they actually did know about Jalen Carter speeding and having that run in with the law that didn't amount to anything officially? Other than that, it sounds like Kirby Smart at least, and his staff at least, warned these guys and told them don't do it. I mean, at that point, how much can Kirby Smart be blamed for these
and
repeated incidents. Now, if it keeps
and
happening, then yeah, I'm all for it, man. Like you've had some pretty glaring examples of why it shouldn't happen and why it shouldn't happen from here on out.
There's no chance a cop in Athens talks to a Georgia football player and Kirby Smart does not know about that. That's just off the table in my opinion. But you said something on the board the other day that I thought was really interesting, which was the car culture perhaps around the football team, and some of the vehicles that, I mean, listen, if you go to a practice at Butts-Mehre, those are not slow cars that are parked out front.
Yeah, they really need to get a deal going with Hayward Allen Toyota. Get some Priuses
Like
up in that thing.
Right.
Just get some guys some 4-cylinder Camrys, not 707 horsepower track
Trailhawks.
And what I was going to add is, Roos, you're absolutely right that it's unfortunate that it takes something of this magnitude to happen for people to learn from it. But you're right that it does. And it's also not just a Georgia thing. It is you'd be crazy to believe that Georgia is the only college in college football that has all these guys that have these fancy cars that are out there driving fast. You'd be crazy to believe that. And I think because of what has happened this offseason, we're hearing about it. Again, it's incredibly unfortunate that happened and that we are learning about it. But I think that what hopefully comes from it is that these guys learn a lesson from it. Kirby Smart's not behind the wheel of these cars, guys. He's not putting his foot on the accelerator.
I'll tell you this: if you don't learn that lesson now, you're not going to learn it. I mean, that's it. Yep. Period. I mean, if you were a friend of Devin Willicks and then what happened, that's it. I mean, you're just
the only thing that's going to change is your own maiming.
No
that's
question.
The only
thing.
And
you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else, and that's it.
And here's my question to y'all: is, I mean, if you're Kirby, how do you get the point, drive the point through the skull of these guys any more than you already have doing a program like that? Do you suspend them a game?
You have to do something.
And to me, that feels like the only thing that you can do is, hey, what you're doing is making a point. What you do off the field is going to affect you on the field in the future.
And it's going to affect the team.
And it's going to affect your team. And it's going to do that at the pro level. It's going to affect your draft stock potentially. The only way to get that through to them in college is a suspension, a game suspension, a half suspension, a quarter, whatever.
I think you go multiple games for Jamon Dumas-Johnson if all of that comes through and he is guilty of said crime, reckless driving, and because that's the guy that's still under your roof. That's the guy you still got a chance to do something with. Yep. He's a team leader. Okay. He's an emotion leader for that team. He's a second leading tackler. You make an example out of him, and you don't make an example out of him to embarrass him. You pull him in your office and you say, hey, listen, this is Jamon. You acted recklessly off the field. We're going to suspend you for 2 games, 3 games, 4 games. And honestly, I hate to bring it up in this context, but you can afford to. That schedule's garbage.
Yep. And if you weren't going to bring it up, I was going to say
everyone's thinking it. So
you can play T. Martin and UAB without Jamon Dumas-Johnson.
You set an example for him. You make Jamon hurt a little bit and grind a little bit and be that much more cognizant of how his teammates are behaving off the field. Because I think that's the kind of guy that can have an impact on that. I mean, Jamon was around the whole accident too. I'm not saying he had anything to do with it. I definitely am not saying that, but he was there and he spends a lot of time around his teammates. I mean, this is a cat that doesn't go home for Thanksgiving because he's got to go to Maryland. He's around all the time. He's there. And I think that's you kind of got a golden opportunity here to make an example and to set an example. And I think you can do that with a guy like Jamon Dumas-Johnson and have it reverberate throughout the entire team.
Well, yeah. and I want to correct Darren from the comments. He was arrested after the deaths of others, but the occurrence that he was arrested for happened before the crash. He was arrested for reckless driving.
National title, right?
He was arrested for reckless driving the day that they got back to Athens from the national title.
That's when
that Tuesday, the 10th.
On a different road.
It looks, I mean, it's a bad look. No doubt either way. But I mean, the timing's important.
Right. I just want to get that straight, so that we don't have people in the comments that are confused. He was arrested after it, but the actual reckless driving occurred before the crash.
And I don't, and listen, the culture thing, I think Kirby Smart brought up a really good point, and that is that as NFL guys and others, you'll tie this thing back to the combine. These people walked into Georgia's building last year, and they decided that there are 15 guys that they wanted to play on their football team. And, because they got a chance to see the culture, they got a chance to see the guys and spend time with them. Listen, Georgia won a second straight national championship. The night after they got back, their guys were running hot, and Jamon Dumas-Johnson drove like a bat out of hell. And that happened, and he got arrested for it for some camera evidence. And then the night after they celebrated that championship, it went way too far. And I don't think any of that is on Kirby or any other individual up there at that building. I think it's just some guys who just handled success and handled celebration really poorly. And, I've handled celebrations really poorly before too. I'm probably lucky that nobody's ever lost their life. But it's at the end of the day, it was a fatal mistake that some people made. And I don't think we can forget that, there was somebody who broke protocol. They also got behind the wheel of a vehicle 2.5 times the legal limit drunk. And, good things don't happen often when that happens.
I will say too as well that Kirby, I don't want to say he's getting a pass on this, but you can tell things have changed a lot because listen, in the Mark Richt era, this was classic. Mark Richt has lost control of blank stuff. Yeah. I mean, these questions in my mind are fair. People saying these things, making these comparisons, I see where they're getting at. I'm not saying that I agree with it, but I understand where it's coming from because 10 years ago, this is, has lost control of the program.
Yeah. So I think we all agree that what happened is not necessarily on Kirby's shoulders, but what happens next is.
Yes.
And Ro, I think you're right, man. You set an example with playing time with someone who has committed that crime and that has done that act that you have to control right now. Whether he does that or not, that specific way, remains to be seen. But everyone's watching Kirby now. How are you going to handle this? How are you going to enforce it? Forget how do you worry about a three-peat. How do you take control of something that has clearly gone out of control on the accounts of multiple different guys? So that's what this spring is going to be about. Unfortunately, for a lot of other good storylines, a lot of other good players, that is what a lot of people are going to be talking about around this team. And it's going to be the biggest challenge. It's going to be the toughest offseason that Kirby's ever had. In an ironic twist of fate, it happens after winning a back-to-back national championship. Just absolutely insane.
And the fact that 77's not there should be, that makes it tough for everybody, and that should be all the lesson anybody needs to learn. But Kirby can't bank on that. He can't bank on that.
Nope. Guys, let's get to some dog stocks. Roos, I'm going to start with you, man. We didn't get to enjoy a Georgia show with you on Wednesday night, so you had a February recruiting roundup recap. What have you? Explain to us what's changed, what's improved for Georgia. What do we need to know? What's on the horizon for the Dogs as we get started with March and get close to wrapping up the spring semester?
Is this my stock? Can I do it as a stock?
You can do it as a stock. Stock up on or stock down on.
Stock up on it's all happening again, man. It's all happening this weekend. Georgia was off this past weekend for spring break, and so there was no recruits on campus. A lot of schools around the country did host guys, Alabama, Florida State, etc. But the Bulldogs did not because they were on spring break. However, they'll be back next weekend, and everything kind of gets popping off again. And I'm going to say huge stock up on Georgia's official visitor list. You can see the full list over at DawgsHQ. We're updating that thing almost daily with the guys that are confirming their visits and locking those official visits in. But it's a who's who. If you haven't read it today, go check out Chad Simmons' story on Jeremiah Smith, the number 2 player in the class of 2024. Number 1 wide receiver by some margin, a guy that a lot of people believe, has that Marvin Harrison ability, can go into and be a difference maker from day one. So, a guy who is looking at Georgia now with maybe a different lens. Ohio State commit, and going to be interesting to see how that goes. Speaking of Ohio State commits, I did an update with Jonte Gilbert today. Number 1 cornerback in the class of 2025. Spoke to him down in Carrollton at the Under Armour camp. Georgia feeling like home for that young man. He said that would be a huge, huge flip, and Georgia is putting in major work in that 2025 class to flip a guy like Jonte Gilbert. So stock up on the official visits, and like I said, it's all about to ramp up. So get over to the Dog Walk and check it all out.
Good stuff.
I'm going to stock up on Georgia left tackles. Guys, it's a fast track to the NFL. It's a fast track to success. It's a fast track to a lot of money. Even when you snub a guy like they did Jamari Sawyer, he's going to be a starter in his second year. He's probably body holding up. His body holding up is the only thing that's going to keep him from probably being a 8 to 10 year starter in the NFL. Andrew Thomas, up there. Isaiah Wynn still in the league. And then now Broderick Jones is coming for it as well. Quick tidbit, don't be surprised if Georgia starts the spring with young Austin Blasky at left tackle.
Whoa, you heard it here first.
Ooh.
I will
go. Wes, you can go.
All right, thanks. I'll go stock down on this intrepid Georgia Tech reporter over at Sports Illustrated that claims that Georgia will lose to Georgia Tech in the 2023 football season. Just that's all I have to say.
Hey, listen, Wes going true Dow Jones here. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down. They've been going down a lot lately. Strong finish to the week last week, though.
Just stock down on Georgia Tech in general.
Yeah,
baseball.
Whoa! There's my.
Oh, am I stepping on your toes, Palmer?
I mean, a little bit. That was one that I considered. That was one that I considered. I was gonna go stock up on Georgia baseball, getting 2 wins over Tech with by 23-8 margin in the first 2 games. Did not complete the sweep today, but Tech was previously undefeated, number 16 in the country coming into the series, and the bats are hot. Georgia is hitting a lot of home runs. It's fun baseball to watch. They got to get the pitching together. They'll go as far as these bats will take them. But that was one of the things that I considered. Also considered something along the lines of Jake's stock report with the left tackles. Ernest Green, stock up on him, according to these NFL bound linemen. They are big Ernest Green fans, think he's the favorite to take that left tackle spot. So I guess it's Jake's word against the word of
well, no, I'm just saying he's starting spring.
Right.
Yeah.
And look, Ernest is somebody that's coming off of an injury. They did say when he gets back healthy, that they did add that caveat in there that but had some really high praise for him and what he did last spring coming in as an early enrollee, and wasn't able to get on the field this year, but they think that he's got a good chance to get on the field this coming season.
Ernest Green.
My stock report goes in 2 wet directions with what Wes and Jake both had to say.
My prediction on that tackle thing before we go is I think you're going to see it much like it was this past year. I think you're going to see 3 guys play tackle. Marius Mims, Austin Blasky, Ernest Green. May see Monroe Freeling kind of slip in there and get some mop-up time too, but I think you're going to see 3 tackles playing crunch time because at this point you got to build depth and you got to get ready for the next football season in the swing of things. And if you've got some guys that are doing it, I think you got to kind of do that. And I think that Stacey Searles liked what happened this past year because both of those both of those tackles jumped ship, and McClendon and Broderick Jones, and he wasn't left holding the bag there. He has one, and then, has to find a way to fill the other 2 spots. And I think he'll play 3 guys. And listen, Blasky's had a good offseason. They're really high on him. They've been high on him for a very, very long time. And I think it's very big for Georgia at this point, at this juncture, that he's sticking around. He's there for spring. He's going through walkthroughs. And, I've heard a birdie or 2 out there talk about the fact that he's, they've been doing walkthroughs to this point. They didn't this past, they're not going to be doing it this week because they're on spring break. But prior to this week, has been doing some walkthroughs at left tackle, and it's been Austin Blasky.
That would be I think you keep together Ernest Green and Monroe Freeling and rotate those guys in. I mean, I'm assuming Mims. I mean, he's already tried to jump ship once. If he has a good season, maybe he takes a look at the NFL with his measure.
Correct, and you're also looking at Austin Blasky probably moving to center next year if he obviously if Cedric Van Pran does as everybody expects and goes pro like he almost did this year.
Yep.
Nick Saban had a quote. I know I'm bringing up Nick Saban on the Georgia show, but we're almost done. So you can go ahead and leave if you don't want to hear this pearl of wisdom. But Saban said that his goal of spring practice is to get the right guys on the bus, get them in the right seats, and get the wrong guys off the bus. Georgia's got a lot of guys on their bus, and there's only so many seats to go around. But the cross-training that they do, especially on the offensive line, that's just out of this world, man. That's some first world problems and first world things to love, because Georgia is doing it on the O-line. I don't know how many teams have the luxury that they do. And Stacey Searles, man, showing up at the right time, whether you like him or not.
Game passed it by, I thought.
Hey, let's cliffhang him a little bit, Wes. We'll get into this offensive line thing and these Amarius Mims questions to right tackle in the next show. You guys come back and see us on Wednesday. I know I'm just cliffhanging a bunch of guys that are going to be here anyway because you guys love us and we love you too.
No, you always got to keep it coming back for more, Jay.
Cliffhanger, baby.
Come back on Monday for Bark After Dark too.
Yeah. We will not be talking right tackle with Andy Staples tomorrow night.
I saw Andy this weekend and almost made a mention. Didn't. It was a little busy and he was on the phone, so probably
eating something.
Hey, Andy's looking good now, man. Andy lost about 40, 50, 60 pounds. He's lost some weight. He looks great. He looks awesome.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, man. Y'all need to get to the bottom of that. Guys eating $30 worth of Taco Bell and still looks like that. I think he's only eating in those moments and then just like fasting until the next time.
I gained
he eats
11,
like a jar of mayonnaise or something.
I heard you say $30 worth of Taco Bell. I gained 11 pounds.
I'm just fantasizing.
It's
about
economical
$30 now. $30 worth of Taco Bell now.
Guys, 2 shows to go till we get to see some spring football. Maybe.
Okay.
Till spring football is existing.
Yeah.
Now that is a cliffhanger.
It's not up to you.
we got Wednesday, we got Sunday, and Bark After Dark in there as well.
Shout out to my man Uncle Glenn, loving Taco Bell. I love Taco Bell.
I knew it. I knew Uncle Glenn loved Taco Bell. Uncle Glenn's the coolest.
Uncle Glenn rocks. So does everybody else in the comments, even you, Tennessee, man. Appreciate y'all checking us out. Head on over to DawgsHQ.com. The premium special still going on through the end of March, $29.99. Head on over there. Read more about what these knuckleheads have to say on the screen with me and on the side of the screen over here. It's a lot of fun. It's weird, but it's great. And it's been a tough offseason in some regards, but Georgia's still back-to-back national champs, and there's still a lot to celebrate over there. Y'all hit like and subscribe if you have not done so already on this YouTube channel. Bark After Dark, different kind of show, a little bit of a different flavor with the 2 Jakes, producer Palmer, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Don't miss that. And we're back here every Wednesday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Y'all have a great week.